Hi, my name is Stacie Hall, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time explaining to you my autobiography, why I chose it, and what theorist I thought best matched the person that I picked. I picked Derek Jeter because I relate to him in most aspects of life. I really enjoyed learning about him when I was growing up, and he was a big figure in my family because both my brothers play baseball, and it's just really cool to actually sit down and learn more about him, the person that I had idolized since I was so little. So the book that I picked is called The Autobiography of Derek Jeter, The Life You Imagine, Life Lessons for Achieving Your Goals. So Derek Jeter was born June 26, 1974, to Sanderson and Dorothy Jeter. Sanderson was a psychologist, and Dorothy made her living as an accountant. Derek Jeter was born in West Milford, New Jersey, and later moved to Kalamazoo, Michigan. And he moved there because his dad decided to continue his education and get his PhD in psychology. And I thought that was really cool because ultimately that is what I would like to do with my life. Derek Jeter woke up one morning when he was 4 years old and started screaming at the top of his lungs that he was going to someday play for the New York Yankees. At 4 years old, that was a pretty big goal, and most kids, set their goals high, but he wanted to make sure everybody knew so that they would take him and hold him accountable for these life lessons, for this life dream of his. His parents were very, very hard on him and expected nothing but the best in, school and sports and life, anything and everything. They expected the best of him. Derek Jeter, his high school years, his junior year was very great. He'd only struck out one time out of the entire year. And then his senior year, he had an ankle injury, so he didn't play as much, but still went 12 for 12 on stolen bases and ultimately was awarded Gatorade Athlete of the Year. And he took that with great pride and accomplishments after a hard year of being injured and coming back and things like that. The University of Michigan awarded him a full scholarship, and he turned it down because his life goal was to be drafted as soon as he got out of high school. And he actually accomplished that. Coming right out of high school, Derek Jeter signed for $700,000 to play for the New York Yankees, a small league, a farm team, but still the New York Yankees. It took him less than a year to get drafted all the way up. His very first game, July 2nd, was Jeter's hardest game he's ever played. He quotes that it was something as worse as a nightmare. Going 0 for 7, striking out 5 times. He says he went home and just cried because he just felt like he was a failure. Jeter believed that winning was everything. And, he played 23 years as a New York Yankee and made a big name of himself and expected winning and nothing less than winning. Jeter believed that winning was everything, and he even quoted in an interview that I found the most entertaining to watch. He quoted that winning is everything. How do you rate losing? He just never understood it. Why does it make you feel better? What did you accomplish? You lost. So whenever they talked about him making it to the World Series and winning and making it to the World Series and losing and not even making it to the World Series, he says that it felt the same. You lost. Or I made it and I won and it was the greatest feeling of my life. So I thought that was really interesting to hear him say. When people looked at him, he believed that nobody worked harder than him. He wasn't out partying like most famous people you see nowadays. He would rather spend nights in the batting cages than out at a party. And I really respected him for that when I was growing up and learning more about him. And, he even said in an interview to Brian Williams that he's always drawn a line between his career and his private life. What his private life is, that's special to him. And it's really interesting to see that because you never hear anything real bad about Derek Jeter, whereas other famous athletes, you hear things all the time. So it was really cool about that too. So in 2014, Jeter announced that was going to be his last season playing for the New York Yankees. And he says that his last game as the New York Yankee, he felt like it was a funeral. They, I guess, played a lot of different videos of him since he was real little and as he grew up. And he said it took everything he had not to cry because that was his life and that's what he loved. With great fan support and everything, he will walk into the Hall of Fame easily, coming out as one of the best baseball players to this day. So I found it really interesting to read this book and learn more about this guy that I had idolized and that my family has grown up watching. And it was really sad in 2014 to watch him go, but it was definitely his time to throw in the towel. So Gordon Allport believed that traits were what makes you who you are. Not one trait, not two traits are the same in on the same people. So I might have a different trait than somebody else, or they might have a different trait than me. And he really stressed that about how people are different individuals. And it was really good timing because in that time people were saying, they were looking more onto other aspects of psychology, and he was more on the behavioral side. And I think that's what made him stick out mostly as a psychologist. And so he believed in cardinal traits and central traits and secondary traits. And I think the biggest secondary trait for Derek Jeter was how hardworking he was. I mean, you didn't really need to know Derek Jeter to know that, he was one of the hardest working guys in the game. And even as an athlete, he was just so hardworking. And people saw that, and it wasn't just one thing that you just kind of blew over. And then Allport also believed that a unifying philosophy of life, meaning you unify your whole life around one thing. And, Derek Jeter, when he was 4 years old, woke up and said that he was going to play as a New York Yankee. And, he unified his life around that. His life was that, and he ultimately accomplished it. And it was really cool to see, his whole life plan out on this book and learning how you set goals and you reach them. And even whenever you come into problems, how you face them and how he faced them. And it was really cool to listen to and read about this book. So it is a good project.